Yes, ladies, gentlemen, we do wonder why it is for the circular economy. Apparently, they're only able to grow when it comes within the ecosystem or an innovation system. But now we do wonder who's needed in that kinds of system and what are the rules of the game to make the circular economy to a success. I do propose just a little video. See this.
Kijk, hun looks zijn niet perfect. Of te veel, dus aan de kant gezet. Al die mooie groenten stapelen op. Het stijgt de aardbol naar zijn kop. Groot, krom of klein, terwijl ze net zo lekker zijn. Haal ze erbij, in de soep zijn ze helemaal blij. Komkommer maakt een goede start. Sluit gekke groenten in haar hart. Doe ook eens gek en geef wat geld. Dan word jij ook een gekke groenteheld. Groot, krom of klein, terwijl ze net zo lekker zijn. Haal ze erbij. Bij komkommer zijn ze blij.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, you saw a video of Kromkommer. Kromkommer, it was a Dutch circular startup that wanted to reduce food waste because many cooked vegetables were thrown away just because of their appearance. And what did they do? They made soup out of these cooked vegetables. But Kromkommer, it was a popular and quite well-known brand, but despite the popularity, the startup could not compete it with the other linear soups on the shelves in the supermarkets. And just to illustrate that the road is quite bumpy when it comes to circular economy startups. And with my next guests, because we have heard a lot about the research, and I have the researchers here with me still at my table, and let's try to find out what, based on all this knowledge, we can come up with when it comes to solutions to make the road less bumpy. I'm going to introduce with all of my pleasure Chief Economist at ING, Marieke Blom. Good to have you. Thank you so very much for being with us. The head of the Copernicus Institute of Sustainable Development at Utrecht University, Marko Hekkert. Welcome to you as well.
Thank you so much.
And Ivonne Bojoh, you are head of production at Circle Economy. I do thank you very much for being with us, because maybe you thought on the program I saw the name of Martijn Lopez Cardozo, but he was, due to unforeseen reasons, not able to make it, and we are so happy that you are here with us, Ivonne. Now, Ivonne, to start with you immediately, you do have a background in startups, but were they circular? Or would you have considered them as circular startups or general startups?
General startups, because it dates back to 1999.
Okay, so over 20 years. Okay, but then at one point you said, I'm going to quit this. I'm going to move to circle economy.
Very true.
Why?
I think in 2019, the realization came that I want to leave something behind that's more than myself. I want to leverage all of the experience and knowledge that I had gathered through the years to truly make a change, a positive impact, and leave legacy behind that's meaningful for societal issues.
Yeah, and in what way circle economy contributes to this?
I think the beauty of circular economy as an organization, being a social enterprise, that they're not just about research, but actually coming up with scalable and practical solutions for not just businesses, but also for nations and cities to implement circular strategies. So the groundwork that circular economy does then translates to actual practical implementations. And I think that's what appealed to me most, that's the DNA of the organization. And then my own objective and my own goal is to actually translate to technology to make it as scalable as possible, that we can reach a greater audience.
Great. Marko, you are a scientist at Utrecht University. What role does the Universiteit Utrecht exactly play when it comes to the transitions towards a circular economy?
Yeah, we play different roles. So first of all, we study. We study what goes well, what goes wrong, the dynamics. But if you just study and you don't do anything with the results, then it would also be kind of useless. So we teach. So we train the change agents of the future. So we have a program, it's called Sustainable Business and Innovation. We have 90 to 100 students a year in that master program. And a lot of them are interested in circular economy. So maybe they work at your organization or your organization. And finally, we communicate to policymakers, entrepreneurs, how they can be more effective in bring the circular economy a bit closer.
Alive, yes. You are Professor Sustainable Innovation.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That means that I studied all kind of new technologies, new processes, but all in the area of sustainability. So I'm not that interested in just more of the same, but to do it for a better world.
To do it for a better world. Again, a personal drive as well there. Marika Blom, so welcome to you as well. Chief Economist at ING Bank. Of course, ING is a very important player within the financial sector. What does ING do for the circular economy?
Well, if you look at my team, what you've just been hearing about, so we do a lot of research to understand exactly what is happening already, what is going well, and where are there any hurdles that we need to consider as a finance organization, but also what might be happening in the policy world, for example. And we try to do that, keeping in mind not just our colleagues who need to make, in the end, of course, the credit decisions, but also our customers, because we want to help them to understand exactly why they might be successful and where the risks are.
Yeah. Now, is it a very important topic in your research department at this very moment, the circular economy in itself?
Well, in general, you see that there's a lot of additional attention for sustainability. So when I started here like 7 years ago, you could see that it was like one of the minor subjects of the things that we were doing. And that's really changed over the last couple of years. And I feel that's intensifying over time because there's a real change in regulation happening. So there is additional regulation being implemented. The election of Biden, for example, means that the world is going to become serious about environmental impacts.
Yeah.
And you can also see, for example, the verdict on Shell last week. That's really impactful. So all companies now need to think about their impact on society, on the planet, and whether in due time they will have to change course because someone is forcing them to. So it's really changed over time.
Yeah, great. We do thank very much all your colleagues for their presentations here today because they really gave us an update about the insights the researchers did, the good work. But now let's try to find out what we can do with all this information because we would like to set an extra step, of course. So let's start, for example, with the fact we need a level playing field. We try to develop a circular world, a circular economy, but we have to compete with the linear one. Now, what does that mean? That level playing field. I maybe start with you, Marieke.
Yeah, well, basically, taking raw materials and then wasting them is still very cheap when it comes to the financial costs of it. And what we see happening is that, for example, the European Commission is now thinking about eco-design regulation, and they're doing so. They're proposing to become a circular economy. Their eco-design regulation used to be only on the efficiency in terms of energy and only for electrical appliances. Now they're thinking about doing that for more types of goods, but also not just on electricity efficiency, but on material efficiency. And that's, of course, the type of intervention that you need. Also thinking about a right to repair. And that means that actual manufacturers now have to think about how do I make my stuff and
to redesign almost.
To redesign. So we've just been hearing, so there's like 5 business models, 5 ways of thinking, and design is one of them. Now, of course, now it's only about startups thinking this way, but all those big manufacturers also need to be thinking that way, and they will be doing so if someone actually tells them to take into account those externalities, the effect on biodiversity and so forth.
But they must be forced by the policy making then, in a way. Or what would you say, Ivonne?
Well, I think it is a joint effort across the board. And I think a lot of times it's a matter of chicken and egg, what comes first in change, especially when it's disruptive. But I think in this case, it's policymakers, but it's also business themselves wanting to be more responsible and being more holistic when it comes to looking at their cost model and their impact. And I think where circular economy can help is to actually work together with nations and also with municipalities to come up with frameworks, to come up with policies that are relevant for their ecosystem and work through that. In the end, it's of course financing that helps. It's the way that you account your business. It's the way that you use your resources and work with the partners. And I think once we start thinking global, that the air that you breathe today might be in South Africa in 3 days. The clothes we wear are not sourced here, are not made here.
Yeah.
It's a global joint effort that we all need to go through. And I think it doesn't matter who moves first,
Yeah.
as long as we move.
So do not stick to the chicken egg discussion.
No.
Just go, move,
Yes.
act.
Yeah. Even baby steps.
Yeah. I was wondering, at the Utrecht University, of course, you also deliver the entrepreneurs of tomorrow. I mean, great talents, great wise young men and women.
Yeah.
You deliver to the world.
Yes.
How do you make sure that they also are fully supported
Yeah.
when it comes to circular economy?
Well, to be honest, most of the people that we train, they do not become entrepreneur. So it really is a special breed that dares to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Fortunately, a small percentage actually want to become an entrepreneur. And if they do, then Utrecht University has quite good facilities to support them. And so we have a few of those office spaces where they can that they can rent very cheaply. They get support. So we call those incubators. So yeah, also University of Utrecht is taking some baby steps in that direction. But also for us, it's really, not the normal thing to do. So I'm very happy that we are now moving a bit in that direction, but it's not yet in our full DNA.
No. Now back to from your perspective, from your institute as well, when it comes to the level playing field where the circular economy could get a boost. Now, what would you say? We had already the policy making, of course.
I heard very smart things. So first we need to realize that the playing field at the moment is not leveled. So the linear economy has just a major advantage. And it's very multidimensional. So it's not just the economy. So virgin materials are cheaper, but it's also everything that we are used to. So the rules of the game, our behavior, our expectations, everything is linear. And the whole economy, even though it's very harmful for the environment, it's fully optimized. It works like a clock. It's very efficient, and we don't know any better. So if you do something radically different, this is the system that you need to compete with, which is completely functioning well on that one dimension that we find problematic apart from that. So then you need governments to change the rules of the game. So governments are crucial.
But they cannot do this overnight.
Yes, they can.
They can?
Of course they can. If they want to, they can. And maybe not literally overnight, but it's also not that difficult. So there are so many analyses, so many reports that we know what's wrong. And then at a certain moment, it's also the will to act. But those governments...
The political will?
The political will. But those governments are also locked into this linear thinking. They also do not know any better. They also think about all the companies, the large incumbents that drive the economy where all our people work at. They are afraid to bring those business models in danger. So also they don't really dare to act.
But then circular economy comes in place because you try to provide governments, cities, countries, like in fact you all do from your different positions, with the right data, with the analysis, like, okay, this is what's happening, these are the hurdles, like we have been hearing today.
And I think,
helping them to move differently.
I think what we hear from a lot of stakeholders across the board is that they do want to act. Sometimes they don't know where they are. And I think that's also where our Circularity Gap Report comes in, to actually just lay down the facts and help them understand where they are in their circular journey, but then also give them strategies and interventions that they can actually act on. And that's what they need the most. What is it? Where am I at? What do I need to do?
But a circularity gap report, it's not everywhere. I mean, even that is quite new and not everywhere around the world that people know
Not
exactly
yet.
if we're going less or
No, I think it's right now the circularity gap report is a global view on circularity, which is done by us on an annual basis. Very grateful for the support we're getting from foundations to do that research work. But based on that, we do have quite a number of nations that are now asking for their own circularity gap report because they want to know their state. So they know what's my starting point, and then what's my potential? Where can I go?
I have questions. Just see what is delivered here. What challenges do we face in valuing circular economy companies? We do not have as much data as, for example, in the IT field, earnings multiples, etc. What challenges do we face in valuing the circular economy companies? Yeah,
Yeah, many.
quite some.
Many,
Yeah.
as we were just hearing, it's often about startup companies. So it's a new company, a new team, and a new business model relying on a new way of thinking. So it's difficult to evaluate. And sometimes there's the addition of the product as a service model, where basically you continue to own some type of asset, and then you're depending on either a consumer or a business to pay you a monthly fee for that. So that's also you then have to make sure that whomever is leasing your stuff is actually going to pay you. So there are very many difficulties in valuing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just add to
Yes,
that? Because
please.
I think when it comes to startups, of course, raising funds is one of the primary objectives and needs, and it's always a numbers game. What's your distribution? What's your possible uptake? What's your unit economics? And it's always about return on investment from the funder's perspective. And I'm hoping at some point that we'll also look at impact of investment, where we spoke earlier about externalities not being taken into account from a cost perspective, but those same externalities should be taken into account from a profit or impact perspective to truly value end to end, especially for so many startups that are wanting to make impact and may not have a business model where they'll be the next decacorn and have 100x return on your investment, but will contribute to sustaining or even regenerating biodiversity or solving part of the climate problem. How do you put a number to that? I think that's one of the things that we really need to research and resolve, because that'll make it easier for investment managers to be able to also invest in them.
This is also why we are pushing a broad welfare index. So everything that we measure now is GDP. It's only about dollars and euros, and all the other things are not
Taken into account sufficiently, like you say.
So if you have a broad welfare index, so this is also GDP is maybe the most important rule of the game. So it's a rule by itself, and if you have a different rule, say okay, we also value all the other dimensions, then firms and banks also make other decisions because you have something to benchmark those decisions.
Do you agree, Marieke?
Well, I think we do need to think deeply about the implications of the way we do business. So in that sense, I agree. What I see as the most important thing is that once you have the sort of like the levers in place to make sure that doing business that old-fashioned way is no longer attractive anymore, and doing business the new way is becoming attractive, then you can actually get scale. And once you get scale, you can develop efficiency, and then you can have impact. Because basically, the current situation, the risk is that it's just going to be a couple of entrepreneurs, startups with a broader mindset in mind, rather than everyone doing business in a new way. So personally, I really believe that we're really going to make a difference once we have like new norms, some things that will no longer be allowed, maybe some subsidies, but a real strong impulse from governmental policy. And then maybe you also have to achieve that, you need to measure differently. But I also believe that there the incumbents can really play a role. So what we've seen so far is that if a government is thinking about maybe imposing some of that environmental regulation, lobbyists are there to explain why it can't be done from an economic perspective. Now, my hope for the future is that companies are then going to say it can be done, but it must be done internationally. And this has been done in the past, but it's mainly been a way of just postponing all sorts of regulation. But I believe that businesses can truly make the difference if they begin lobbying for change, and then they also sort of begin helping to gain political support for all those needed changes.
Changes, yes. And all that based on the research done by so many institutes like you are representing here today. Now, well, I think I have the answer to you, what you will say. The EU aims to implement a tariff for dirty import. What do you think about this? Is this a good idea? Dirty imports.
Yeah, well, the European Union is the biggest market in the world. It's bigger than the US in itself. So it's very impactful. Preferably, we would be working together with the US to implement something like this. And another way, probably even better way, would be for all economic regions to just be making new environmental regulation on the ground to influence the way companies produce. But if that's not possible, then this is a second best alternative, which I believe will be useful in changing the world.
So, to actually move forward into the circular transition, what is the carrot that the government should give, and where should the stick be implemented? And do you have one concrete example? Or I look at all of you, but maybe
one of the sticks was just mentioned, the tariffs that they're proposing. But I think that the carrot is the support system that governments can provide, whether it be subsidies, whether it be specific favoring regulations for not just startups, but businesses in general that are more conscious and more socially responsible. And I think I completely understand the stance of looking at Europe and the States to combine and join forces in this. But what we're focusing on now from Circular Economy in one of our programs is focusing on the global South cities, because that's where a lot of manufacturing is happening, to actually help them with circular strategies. And do it also bottom up. And I think that's where the chicken and egg, again, we need to let that go, that we can do just from all angles.
Can I say something about the carrot? I think because we often talk about, indeed, the sticks. The government is one of the biggest buyers in the world. And so we call this public procurement. So what do the governments buy? So if they buy only circular stuff, that's a major change
already. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, they're getting
that
more and more. Yeah. Well, if it's demand pull, right? So you create a market. So I think it's a carrot. Yeah.
It's you. Okay. Yeah. Oh, Marieke, I have a direct question for you. To change an economy, subsidies, tariffs, and taxes are crucial. If Marieke was Minister of Finance, would be her first course of action?
Ooh, then it comes to being very specific, right? Well, maybe thinking about the circular economy, I would say that the right to repair would be one of the things that we would really have to be lobbying for, and preferably on the European level. So it's a very concrete one.
A concrete answer to this question, and for sure that you will have more in mind.
Yeah, I will probably drive home thinking I should have said that one. That's more important.
Yeah. Now, finally, because we will have to finalize this discussion, wanting to be circular, it's of course a means. It's not a goal at itself, I can imagine. Now, Dutch government says in 2050 we are fully circular. What do you think if you hear that?
I have mixed feelings. So on one hand, it's unachievable. It's also not specific.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's fantastic to have something to long for. That's the direction. Huh? And the second part, it wins. So I think it's very good to have that aim. And then, of course, we need to specify it and detail it, but to say, okay, that's the ambition. I think that's very good.
Great.
Yeah.
It was great having you. Time is up. We must come to an end to this discussion. I do thank you very much, Marika Blom, Chief Economist at ING, Head of the Copernicus Institute of Sustainable Development at Utrecht University, Marko Hekkert. Marko, great you were here with us. And Ivonne Bojoh, wonderful Head of Production at Circle Economy. Because yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to an end of this program. And well, I hope you did learn maybe or got inspired by the speakers that we presented here to you today, and that you feel the right energy to continue or even to start working on the circular economy as maybe a startup, as a scientist, as an investor, or maybe even a policymaker. Yeah, it could be everything, of course. And we do wonder that maybe you would like to learn more about the research project of Utrecht University, where all of this is part of. Then please click, or you can do that now or later on the new narrative logo. It is top left on your screen, and that will direct you then immediately towards the project's website. Yes, and then to conclude, remember, when you cooperate, you will be stronger, isn't that? So, stronger together. Thank you very much for joining us live, and see you some other time. Bye-bye.